we saw between the periods of March 18th and roughly March 29th. About 61% today are very concerned about coronavirus. So we had a spike, but it looks like it's starting to recede, and the concern is not quite as strong as it was just a few days ago. This is a look at the percentage of consumers that say they are definitely avoiding eating out and how that's changed. It's a different line. Here we have an acceleration, not just for a couple of days, but over a period of a couple of weeks until we got to about 60, maybe 60%, maybe 2/3 of consumers saying, oh, ooh, I'm getting an echo. Sorry for the echo there. I think I just live streamed myself to me, and you heard me playing myself back to myself. That was very meta. So we had a peak that we hit March 25th. Definitely avoid eating out. That sentiment has since flattened. Even when we had the news that it looks like we might have a higher confirmed case count or death count at the end of the month, that did not cause a subsequent spike in the avoidance of eating out from consumers. And since then, we've had what looks like pretty good news in the most recent days, where the estimate for deaths in the US has been revised downward pretty substantially. Hopefully we will see that continue to hold true, and we will continue to hear that we've had good success in bending the curve. So I wanted to take a pulse real quick, and let's try this real fast. So here's a question for you all, and hopefully you'll be able to see this on your screen. What concerns you? So not what do you think people think, but what do you think regarding coronavirus? What concerns you most today? Is it the public health crisis, or is it the economic crisis? And it'll be interesting to see if we think similarly to the general consumer public. So take about another 30 seconds to vote. I get to see this tabulated live, and it's really interesting to see these numbers just zooming around. We've had almost 900 people vote already, and the numbers keep going up. So we'll give it 10 more seconds and I'll close off voting. We have a very nice statistically significant sample of industry professionals. Right now, we're at about plus or minus 3% margin of error, which is excellent. Better than most presidential polls, if you will. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So 62% of us say it's the economic crisis that we are most concerned with, versus 38% that say they're more concerned with public health. So remember, 62 economic, 38% public health. And if we take a look at what consumers say, it is literally exactly the opposite, almost to the percent. There's 63% say they're more concerned about public health, and about 37% more concerned about the economic crisis, or perhaps the impending economic crisis. This is a brand new stat that we just started tracking this week, and we'll continue to report on in the weeks ahead. I believe we will see these numbers shift considerably over the course of the next several days and weeks, but the only way to know for sure is to track it. But basically, those of us that are part of this community on this call right now, we think essentially in the opposite direction of the general consumer public. So, since the onset of social distancing, where have consumers cut back on their spending? A number of different categories here, but food from restaurants is number one on this list by a pretty substantial margin as well. So we've taken a lot of the brunt of this already. It's already happened. The question now is just how long will it continue to happen for, and what will the world look like as we ramp up into this post-recovery phase? So again, you can see restaurants at the top. People aren't nearly cutting back on food from the grocery store. They're not cutting back on toys for their children or pets either, though. So I guess you have some happy kids and pets at home. And we're at a point now where very soon some members of society will start to get their stimulus checks, $1,200 per adult for those that are that have made less than $75,000 a year, and still some money for those making up to about $99,000 a year. And the question is, what's going to happen to that stimulus money? So I'd like to just ask us all a quick question, what our gut is on this. Let's launch another poll. What do you think is going to happen? And this is overly simplified, but what do you think people are going to do with their stimulus checks? Are they going to save it, or are they going to spend it? Now, this may very well be a case of people saying one thing and then ultimately doing something different. But if you had a bet, what do you think people are going to do when they get their stimulus checks? Okay, let's give it 10 more seconds. We've already had almost 1,000 people vote, which is fantastic. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's see where we landed on this. The vast majority of us, 70% plus, think that consumers will spend their stimulus money. What will consumers actually do? Well, first let's look at what they say they're going to do. This is what they say. More than anything else, consumers say they plan on saving their stimulus money, 62%. And then if you look at the breakdown of where they plan on spending, if spending is what they choose to do, you can see it starts with essentially the essentials, right? Rent, mortgage, utilities. There's probably going to be some relief over there because not everyone's going to have to pay mortgage, and many are asking for rent forgiveness as well. And then making sure they have food in the house from the grocery store. Restaurants are a little bit further down in this, about 19%. But the broad sentiment among consumers is, when I get this, I'm going to save it because I need some protection. That's one part of the story. The other part of the story is how this breaks out by consumer type. So what are people likely to do, and are we seeing variations among, let's say, generational groups? It's actually quite interesting. So if you look at the propensity to save, it is stronger among boomers than it is Gen Z. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around, but if you look at the propensity to say, I'm going to spend my stimulus on restaurants in my community, this also is stronger among boomers. But you have other activities or intentions that are much more pronounced in earlier generations, or sorry, younger generations. Take a look here. To take that money and use it to buy something that I've long wanted is way more common among Gen Zers than it is Gen Xers and boomers. To invest it is actually something that Gen Zers say they're looking to do to protect for the future. To gift or donate it, I'm a Gen Xer. I consider myself reasonably philanthropic, but my generation, for some reason, is the least likely to say they're going to donate that money or gift it for whatever reason. So you do want to look at the different types of consumers, because it's not going to be an across the board thing where everyone's doing the same activity. The primary motivation right now is to save, because people have uncertainty about what's going to happen next. If there is an additional tranche of stimulus, which looks like it's certainly possible, or if the economy starts opening up more quickly than was previously expected, or even if there's just a date at which people recognize the economy is going to open back up, I think this starts to change very dramatically, very quickly. And the voting that you just did, that consumers are primarily going to spend rather than save, will probably come to light. So imagine the stimulus check is in hand, and that you have a choice, and you can only spend your stimulus on food, either food from grocery stores or food from restaurants or other places away from home. What would that look like? The short answer is that restaurants will get a slice of that pie, but it's certainly not a majority slice right now. People say that about 26% of that money, or 26% of people say they would spend that money primarily on restaurants over grocery stores. So the good news there is if you think about the allocation right now of the consumer dollar, if we were somewhere pretty close to 50-50 share of stomach previously, about the, 50% of money spent on food is away from home, about 50% is at home, give or take a couple percentage points. In the environment today, with how much food service has been down over the past few weeks, it's probably something more like 85-15. So this is actually an improvement from that. But just know that when people get their checks in hand, they're not going to be taking all of it and spending it just on restaurants. There are going to be some more immediate needs that they feel they have to sort of follow up with and get food from grocery stores as well. So the question then becomes, what happens when the world starts to open back up again, right? What we just looked at are basically consumers' thoughts, assuming that life is as it is today. But we're going to be out of this at some point, and there's some indications this may happen a little bit earlier than previously thought. So what would that actually mean? Well, one, as we move back into a place where things are opening back up, we're going into work, the question is, what habits have consumers adopted during the pandemic, and are they going to continue doing those things or not? So it's quite interesting. Here's a list of behaviors that you can see. And at the top, we have the things that consumers say, I'm going to most likely to continue doing. And what we notice really quickly is these all tend to be personal behaviors, right? Not specifically related to food, just personal behaviors that they say we're going to continue doing. The stuff at the bottom in blue, these are more things specific to food. So you almost have to consider, people say they're going to do something. Will they actually consider doing it? And that's why we like asking questions this way, so you can actually compare between items. So let's take a look at this. So I'm going to continue washing my hands more than I did before. I'm going to disinfect shopping carts and baskets at stores when I go shopping. I'm going to carry sanitizer with me wherever I go. I'm going to continue distancing myself from others in public. These are, consumers say they're more likely to continue doing these things than they are to avoid buffets or to disinfect their delivery packaging or to avoid raw food, for instance. So you have to sort of dial these numbers back a little bit, because I think there is a gap between what consumers say their immediate intention will be versus what they actually will end up doing in the long run. So you have to say, well, do you really see a world where people are always disinfecting their shopping carts, always keeping away from others in public? If so, then these are the numbers, right? But if you say, you know what, I don't really think 68% of people are going to go on disinfecting their shopping cart every time they go in the store, then you sort of understand that, well, you know what, these other eating behavior activities that you see sort of a little bit further down, these are even less likely to be behaviors that are maintained in the long run. So I wouldn't look so much at the absolute number, but I'd look at the rankings within here. And we shall see. But my gut is that we'll be doing some things for a little while, but these won't all be long-term behaviors. Imagine you're back and it's your first week back at work. The economy is opening back up and you're getting back out of the house, and some of those social distancing requirements have been eased. Which of these things would you do, or which of these things would be true to you? Well, at first you might sort of notice this point at the bottom, which is I would have absolutely no concerns about going out to a restaurant, that only 39% of people say they would have no concerns at all. That actually jives very well with the 64% of people that we see right now saying, I would definitely avoid eating out. So at first, you might say, wow, that's very troublesome. Almost 40% of people, only 40% of people say they'd be okay with going into a crowded restaurant, which means that 60% wouldn't be okay with it. But then as we drift a little bit further up, I wanted to point our attention to those two items in blue. I would have absolutely no concern socializing with coworkers and classmates, about 52%. Then I would have absolutely no concerns about sitting down to dine at a restaurant, 48%. The concern about sitting down and eating in a restaurant, which is the thing that we've been asked not to do right now, is about the same, or actually even a little bit lower than the concern with just the notion of socializing with the people that you work with or go to school with. And you have to ask, will we be in a world where that socialization just stops, right? Because the restaurant concern is actually a bit lower than that. So again, we're going to see some very rapid shifts in these types of numbers as we start opening things back up again. And I would just caution everyone that as you look at this, I would not pay as much attention when we're thinking about consumers projecting what their immediate behavior is going to be. I wouldn't pay as much attention to the absolute hard number and project that out. I would look more at the ranking between items, because I think that tells us how things are going to move relative to one another. The one thing we know is that restaurants are going to do a lot to provide a real sense of normalcy for consumers, right? The thing that they are most looking forward to for going back out to restaurants and bars again, it's not because they can get food that they couldn't normally get from home. It's nothing other than, I just want to feel normal again. Sitting down and eating at a restaurant or getting food from a restaurant, that is part of my definition of normal. That says to us there's a lot of pent-up demand, right? Because we all want to get to that place in our minds, and restaurants will be one of the primary tools that consumers use to achieve that sense of normalcy. There's a great video posted, I think Washington Post, I think just yesterday, and it was a little short 2-minute video of some woman in Wuhan who said, it's amazing that I can go back out again and get local food. This to me is like the best indicator that my life has become normal again. And we see that same phenomenon here. So where are people most looking forward as far as food and drink to going to? Number one is just being able to sit down at their favorite restaurant. Not just visit, but to enter, sit down, have a meal there. Recreational places where you can get food. Meeting family and friends out at restaurants. Those are the things that consumers are going to look to get to. And I think the real story here is there is a sense of pent-up demand that, and it's going to be a major itch that consumers want to scratch. You're probably feeling it yourselves in your own lives. And, maybe you're making delicious gourmet food and you're cooking it up at home, but I have to believe the vast majority of us are saying, boy, I can't wait to get something delicious or sit down at a restaurant again. And consumers are telling us the same thing. But for this to work, restaurants and other places that serve food need to recognize there are many things that they have to do to make consumers engage in that way. These numbers, I think, are important to look at on their face. This is the percentage of consumers who actually answered a question. We said, which of these things are absolute requirements to you for a restaurant to make you feel safe? Not just sort of important, but which of these things are absolute requirements? It is a host of different things. Visibly wiping down tables and other surfaces, making sure there's food covers and sneeze guards, providing disinfectant wipes for the consumer, making sure that the employees are dressed in the proper sort of safety apparel. There's a broad number of things, and this is sort of a follow-up to what we talked about last week, this notion of overt sanitation, and just the idea that you have to go overboard with your portrayal of what you're doing to keep consumers safe in your environment, or if you're serving food to them for delivery or takeout or dine-in, right? You have to go overboard. You have to consider that from the consumer's perspective, it is like a minefield. Anything is a potential bomb, right? Everything is a potential landmine. It could blow up and infect them, even if it's paranoia, even if it's not realistic. Because this thing is invisible, people just don't know. We need certainty to counterbalance that. Anything you could do, even if it's extreme and seems over the top as an operator, you should be thinking about doing that. It will provide enormous comfort to the consumer. So yes, we can get consumers back into the restaurant and other places to eat. There's pent-up demand for it, but we have a major obligation to keep them safe and also to show them in many different ways that they are safe as well. So with that, we wanted to pivot to today's major topic, which is extreme adaptation. What does this thing on the screen. If you're in chat, maybe you could type in your answer as to why we're showing the strange creature, and some other point I will reveal why we chose this image to represent extreme adaptation. I'd like to bring in Mike Costio and Renee Wegge. They're part of Datassential's trends team. They are quite literally two of the best trends people on the planet. And I'm gonna let them take us through a number of slides. And I think, Mike, Renee, the best way to make this work is, because I have control of the slides, maybe you just wanna do your bit, and then when you're ready for the slide to progress, just go boop and make like the little beeping noise, and I'll know to press the button. What do you say?
Okay. Sure.
Okay, the floor is yours.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Jack. Well, so the first little category that we're gonna dive into is creative takeout and delivery, which, as you all know, actually many things could be in this category, because basically everything is takeout and delivery now. So there's gonna be a little bit of overlap, but this is from Mama Lou's in Traverse City, Michigan, and they just have this huge, I mean, it almost looks like more of like a pizza box, really. It's a huge taco kit. So we're just going to look at some of these operators that are pivoting with their takeout and delivery. Boop.
Also, that too. Yeah, I mean, this is not an exhaustive list by any means. The number of operators across the country who are offering carry out and takeout and delivery now is, off the charts. So if you guys have seen other cool stuff, feel free to share in there. I mean, even just for our own purposes at Datassential, we love to see what people are seeing.
Yeah.
This is a great concept. Barcelona Wine Bar. They have about 20 locations in the country, and so they've done two things really, really well. One is to empower their employees to make decisions. So they said, wherever you are and whatever you need to do that works for your concept, in order for that location to survive, do it. Whatever you need to do. And so it's been different from location to location. I know there was one location where one of their clients, they were going to get married, and their caterer dropped out, and they said, we're not going to cater anymore. And so they were still doing a socially distanced wedding. It was going to be small, but they still wanted to carry it out. And so Barcelona jumped in there, and they actually provided the wine for that location. You can see right there in the picture, they actually, asked employees to write on the boxes, just little messages. We've seen that from a number of operators, whether it's just, hey, reaching out, letting I prepared this, to even saying only a single person at this location actually prepared this meal. There weren't 30 hands in it, and I'm the person that did it. So.
Yeah, isn't that great too? Because that's something that doesn't even cost money. It's just writing that little personal note on that. So that's great.
And then this is Optimist Hall. So we've seen a number of food halls across the country close. I mean, that's just not a great option for food halls right now, but Optimist Hall out of Charlotte, North Carolina, they stayed open. And like Jack said, you really can't go overboard when it comes to showing off, how safe you're being. The same thing goes for instructions in general. A lot of ways people are interacting with restaurants right now are brand new for them. So they really don't understand what they're supposed to do. So that, they put these to-go instructions for Optimist Hall on their website. You order from the individual operator that's in the food hall, and then you pull up, and there's, I think they call them OH ambassadors, and that ambassador greets you, and then they bring out the meal to the car. So, we've even yesterday I was at the grocery store, and at first you're kind of unsure. Are we all allowed to go in all at once? Once you're in the store, are we allowed to, walk in the aisles? We'll talk a little bit about one-way aisles. You're just really not sure what to do. So the more instructions, really, the better. This is, we've said the word pivot probably 9,000 times in the past couple of weeks. But this is, it's an operator out of Cincinnati, Ohio. They were called, I have it in my notes here.
Sacred Beast
Kitchen. So they were in Cincinnati, and that's the family up in the left-hand corner there. They actually changed the concept. It's all temporary, so they'll go back to Sacred Beast Kitchen, assuming this works out. But they changed it to Beast Mart, so you can see the branding there. They actually wrapped the windows on the outside, and so I mean, it really just showcases to their customer base and new customers. Yep, we're a different concept for these times, and we're more of a market now. They actually, because they're out of Ohio just started offering just started lifting cocktail delivery laws. So, here in Chicago and New York, for a couple weeks now, you've been able to deliver cocktails. Ohio just started doing that. So they just started delivering cocktails here. But that also showcases just, the patchwork of regulations across the country. Every operator is kind of at a different place now in what they're allowed to even offer.
That heat and serve beast kit for $100 includes four rolls of toilet paper.
Yeah.
I feel like if you bought that 2 weeks ago, there was an arbitrage opportunity. Buy this thing, sell off the paper, get free food. And one of the things to think about as we go through some of these examples is not any particular one of these might be the right thing for you or your customer. What we're trying to do is see if this makes a light bulb go off, right? Is there an inspiration about all the different things? We're seeing so much that different operators and retailers are doing right now. And it's just sort of amazing explosion of creativity.
It's true. Yeah, this was something that we just saw. So HEB, which before basically today, I thought it was HEB because I just like to say things that are quicker, but it's HEB. And their stores in Texas have been teaming up with restaurants to sell their meals in the grocery store. So I thought that was such a good idea because, I mean, people who are going to the grocery store, they don't want to, have to go to the grocery store and run around to 10 different other shops. But here they can get a home cooked meal from that restaurant that they want to support still. And, then, grocery stores are open, so they're able to do that for the restaurants.
HEB does such a good job in general. What a good brand.
Yeah, that's true. And then we've seen a lot of examples with heat and eat. So I think there was one of the COVID reports that we did before that was talking about, people feel a lot safer if they can, pop something into the microwave, nuke it up, and then it feels a lot safer. So this is something that was cool that I saw in the UK, Pure, which is a fast casual, and they have they have a new work from home line. So, I mean, I think basically almost everyone is working from home now. So what a great way to showcase these little kits. They have like salads, they have snacks, beverages, everything. And they kind of name them after certain things too. So the one on the right is called the Peak Performance. So like, that's such a great message, right, Mike? Like just, here's something to be your peak performer, when you're working from home. So that's a great little, and people like comfort foods, but I think they also still want something that's a little healthy they can feel good about. This is Provenance in Newport Beach, California. And so they have very simple like heat and eat packaged meals. I mean, that's just pasta there. And how easy is that to just put the sauce in different containers, have those really clear instructions in there of how to heat it up when you get home. Because, we were talking about before, some people who may have not been cooks before, they might not know how to do some of these things. So packaging it up.
I want to provide just a little personal story to add some context as to why instructions are important. I remember years ago, I ordered a lasagna from a delivery place, and it came in one of those like white styrofoam clamshell type of containers, and I decided to put it in the microwave. And I am not a cook, nor do I even know how to microwave stuff particularly well. So I just shoved it in there for 4 minutes, which I thought was an appropriate time. When it came out, a substantial portion of the styrofoam had like melted away. So there was just like little like holes and stuff in there, and probably became part of the lasagna. And I was left with this very tough choice. Do I, do what's probably the safe thing and not eat it, or to just eat the lasagna that's been like merged with the styrofoam? I chose to eat the lasagna because I was quite hungry.
How did that taste? How did the styrofoam taste exactly?
It gave it a little body. I don't know. I mean, but if I had had instructions, it would have helped me substantially. So do not underestimate the absolute ignorance of people like myself, and just how much we need clear-cut instructions to tell us what we can and can't do.
That's true. You can't assume that people know how to do, and especially cooking for a huge family too. Now that you're making 3 meals a day for everyone in the household.
Yeah, actually, I ordered pizza the other night, and I said I had wished the pizza came with a little tamper-proof sticker, just because it just feels so like exposed when you get it. And I was talking to Carly, our plant-based expert at Datassential, and she said, just stick the whole box in the oven for a couple of hours.
Decontaminate the whole thing, yeah. that works.
I
Ooh,
can
what
do that, right? Because it's Fahrenheit 451 is when the thing lights up, right? So as long as you're under 450, you should be okay.
Oh,
So this is actually an option where traditionally they don't offer it as a heat and eat. And then for Easter, they're offering it to heat up at home. So this is the Morris, which is the independent operator in San Francisco. And they offer the smoked duck all the time. It's an entree for their to go and carry out meals. But for Easter, they were doing a pre-smoked duck and they actually deliver it cold. And then you can heat it when you're ready to eat your Easter meal at home. And I think the interesting thing about this, just in general, is the number of operators who are offering Easter meals right now. You know, we saw that for St. Patrick's Day when this was kind of early. Now we're seeing it this weekend. We're seeing it for Passover Seders. You know, people want to keep the same traditions that they've had. If anything, those traditions are more important than ever for them. And
Yeah.
You don't heat up the slushy though, right? That's a
no. So that's their signature slushy that you actually get at the restaurant. It's a chartreuse slushy, and they deliver it in a mason jar now. And if you bring the mason jar back, they'll give you $1 off your next meal.
Oh, that's cool. It actually comes like that, not like a little plastic cup. That's great.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
This another one that really did a great job pivoting. So this is a restaurant group around Buffalo, New York. Their main concept is called Osteria 166. They actually bought the domain name stockthefreezer.com, and they've taken all of the entrees that they typically offer on their restaurant menu and they freeze them. And so you can actually buy these frozen meals and stock your freezer for the week and take them out and heat them whenever you want. I also like in the corner there, you can see how many meals have been donated. So every time you order, they give you the option of also donating a meal. You can see, you know, when we put this deck together, it was a little over 8,000. I think if you look this morning, they're approaching 13,000 meals donated, and then they're approaching 9,000 meals delivered as well. I mean, this just like exudes competence. Like you see this website, you know what you're gonna get, you see other people are ordering it. I just feel like you feel really good about ordering from a concept like this.
You know, one thing we should study probably in our next wave of research is, do people even have freezer space? I actually tried buying a freezer from Amazon, and it got delayed. Then I tried buying one from Home Depot. That got delayed until I think July or something. It'll probably get pushed back again.
It was
There's been a
probably
run
super
on freezers.
expensive too. I mean,
Yeah, the cheap ones sold out very, very fast. I think there's probably some pretty expensive ones still there.
yeah.
Talk to us about pop-up grocers.
Yeah, pop-up groceries. So actually so many places, since we put together this deck, have turned their restaurants into markets. So even not in here, like Subway is doing it, Panera's doing it, Freshie here is doing it. They have their essentials bundle for $45. So now you can get all of your healthy produce through them too. So if you're already getting something to eat from there, you can stock up your fridge as well. Don't have to run to several places.
So I got to ask, is the essentials bundle for $45? Is that a good deal?
I'm like trying to read that fine print. I mean,
You know, it depends on
I
how
think
much
it's
the Genius
convenient.
juice normally costs, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
that are expensive. Yeah, I feel like
yeah, I think they are getting expensive for sure. But again, I think it's that convenience factor, you know.
For sure.
This is CPK Market. So I love all these places that have just, you know, turned their names into something completely, not completely different, but, you know, different enough to associate it. So California Pizza Kitchen, they're now doing meat and seafood. They're doing milk, anything that you might need along with your normal meals too.
So were there changes in like, you know, city or state regulations that's allowed this to happen? Or could you have always done this if you wanted to?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So if anyone in chat knows the definitive answer to that question, please share it with the rest of us.
Yeah, I wonder for the alcohol delivery, might be the only thing, I'm not sure. This is a really cool example. You know, Jack, you talked about toilet paper before, and this place, the Alibi in DC, they actually have a whole, they call it their free TP delivery menu. So anything you get on there over $25, you get free toilet paper. And so just another great way to stock up on things. You can get raw meals and you can get ones that are already prepared. And this is one of the only places I've seen too that offers, they have masks. They have masks, they have gloves. So really that one-stop shop for everything that you might need.
Yeah.
This is a concept out of Sacramento, California, that they actually changed the entire concept. So typically the restaurant name is Aioli, Bodega, Espagnola. And so they decided on a weekend that they were going to actually turn into a bodega. They took everything back of house, put it front of house, all the shelving units, all the freezers and refrigerators. And so they're actually a bodega now. They said it took about 12 hours. And the cool thing is they partnered with, a bunch of operators across the Sacramento area to offer various things in the market. So, it's not just food items. They have soap, they have, cleaning supplies from local vendors.
Oh,
That,
that's cool.
that only took 12 hours to do. That seems like a very worthwhile 12 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that makes sense if you already have, like, most restaurants will have storage, like,
Racks.
like, okay, right, yeah, racks and stuff in the back. So why not just take that up front and turn it into bodega? That's very cool.
Where they actually changed the name of the concept. So they have a website that's called Aioli La Bodega now. They have their own Instagram account. Like for all intents and purposes, it's almost a new separate concept that they've created.
And sometimes you can't tell. If you look these up, you would never know that it used to be a restaurant, You're like trying to figure out, what was this called before?
And then this one, so this is out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So Better Black, it's an organization that actually does these kind of pop-up events all over the city where they'll take over a block and they'll kind of showcase how you can turn that block into a new community-oriented venue. And so they were going to have this big outdoor event in early March, and of course that was canceled because of the social distancing regulations. And so they actually worked together with Oddfellows to take some of the materials that they had developed for that event and turn the outdoor area next to the restaurant into a market. So the nice thing for Oddfellows is, like a lot of restaurants, it's not a huge location. You can't fit a lot of people in there. So it's a lot safer to have people outside. You can actually only order things from this outdoor area. So either through the window there or at the little stands that you see in the picture.
Makes it a lot easier to social distance.
Let's talk about do-it-yourself meal kits.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, this was Seoul Taco, Mike?
Yeah. So we've seen, a number of locations either take the things that were traditionally on their menu and start offering them as a DIY kit just because, it's something for the family to do, or maybe you don't want to make it right away, or maybe you want to offer a larger portion so people can make it throughout the week. Like Seoul Taco here, you can actually order kind of anything on their menu, either as a pre-made item or as a DIY item. And they've developed these great little images here so you can actually see how to build it. You'll actually, come away with some of that knowledge when you're done as well. This is a fun one, the Cranky House Donut Shop. It's Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, just outside of Milwaukee. This is, a kind of an easy pivot for them. So you just take the donuts that you were traditionally offering, but anything that you're going to put on top of them, now you put it in a little to-go container on the side. And they call this the kids quarantine box. So you can give it to your kids and they can actually make a donut right there.
I love that name, Cranky Owls. Like, you just get such a image in your head.
And then similarly, so this is Ridge's Churros in California. They're a fleet of food trucks, and now they actually are using the food trucks to deliver these churro sundae kits directly to people's houses. So it's really fun. Like, you see this giant churro truck pull up in front of your house. The kids run outside, hopefully not right up to the truck, and they get to pick up their churro kit and then build their sundae. So like it says there, stay home, we'll deliver. You don't even have to leave your house.
Nice, nice. This is Beatrix in Chicago, which is really well known for a lot of their baked goods. And I know a lot of people are stress baking out there right now, so this is a big thing. I hate to measure. I'm a cooker, I am not a baker, so this would appeal to me. They just have all of their cookies ready to go. You grab it and pop it in the oven and you can pretend like you baked, which I would totally do. Lots of fine dining restaurants are pivoting as well. And since we've said pivot 10 times, I'm going to make a Friends shout out for that episode if anybody's listening is a Friends fan. But lots of fine dining restaurants had never had to think about takeout before. So what are some places doing, Mike?
So Canlis in Seattle, probably a lot of people listening in have heard about them because they were one of the first to really start offering new options. They have, you can see the logos here. I mean, they have a wide variety of options that get them through the day. So there's actually a bagel a shop that they open in the morning. They offer pick up burgers during the day. And then at night they do these family meals. So they're a little bit higher of a price point. They do the famous salad that Canlis is known for. And then they do kind of fun things. You can see the one logo there is for their pianist actually performs from the restaurant. You can join the live stream while you eat your meal at night.
Oh, how nice. So kind of bring that fine dining atmosphere into your home, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, this is Alinea, which I think, most people have heard of. And they were one of the first to do these take-home meals as well. So, instead of paying $200, $400 a pop, you're getting, I think it's $35 for their little kits. So they sold out. They sold like 1,000 in one day. Alinea has also been doing margarita kits. And they were able to go on Twitter and say that they sold like $6,000 worth of margarita kits.
They sold 1,000 kits or $1,000 worth of stuff in one day?
So 1,000 of the meal kits, and then which was like a beef Wellington, mashed potato type thing.
They did $35,000 in a day?
No, sorry, then $6,500 a day for the margarita kits.
For the margarita.
So yeah, 1,000 kits.
Yeah.
1,000 kits at $35 though.
That's true. That's
So they did $40,000 in a day between the food and beverage.
Yeah, which still, compared to their actual cost of, having the $400 a pop is still like, a lot different. But this is awesome because people who may not have been able to afford Alinea before, like, can say that they had a meal from there. And
$40,000 a day is pretty good.
Yeah, that's true. I know, I would take it, right?
No, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
And this is so, sometimes we kind of make fun of this concept out of LA. It's called Vespertine. It's hyper futuristic. So that dish that you see on the left-hand side there, it's often really hard to decipher what's the food and what's the plate. So really, really futuristic concept that's gone over, to delivery, but they, still kind of try to make it a little bit special. So it tends to be a multi-course meal. It tends to be themed. They still give you a little vellum menu. You see a lot of people online saying, I still have a birthday, I still have an anniversary, and I'm, going to celebrate it despite the fact that I'm at home. And so they'll order from, one of these fine dining restaurants to celebrate it.
Very nice.
What the heck is this?
Yeah, you gotta tell us about this, Mike.
I love this one. I think it's just so out there. So Arden, this is a restaurant in New York. This is easily the most expensive one that we've seen. They tried as hard as possible to really recreate the feeling that you would have if you were eating in the restaurant. So they came up with this Doomsday dinner party concept. It's $600, 11 courses for 4 people. They do everything except heated and plated. So they send it to your house. They actually have YouTube videos so you can see how to plate it. They have a Spotify playlist that you can play while you're eating dinner. But the thing that really sets it apart is that these tuxedo-clad, people in bunny masks are the people that deliver the meal to you.
See,
this is literally like The Purge.
It is The Purge, yeah. Like, what is that? I guess Doomsday, playing off of, I don't know.
So let's look at some things that places are doing to make food even safer right now.
Oh, yeah. So this is Dickie's Barbecue Pit, and they have doorstop delivery. So lots of places are doing that now, contactless delivery. But they also have, Mike, I think you were talking about this earlier, that tamper evident little, almost looks like caution tape on there, just so you can tell, once it was packaged, no one has messed with your food. So that's really nice.
And this is here in Chicago, Baker Miller. So they posted on Instagram the other week that we just want to let you guys know everything that we're doing to make sure that you're safe above and beyond just, wearing masks and wearing gloves. So it's things like they actually have a dedicated area back of house when deliveries come in. And everything immediately goes to sanitation. So everything's wiped down immediately. They won't allow their employees to take public transportation. So you either have to bring in your own car or they'll figure out a way to get you to the restaurant. Something I've never seen before is they have that fan in the window there. So it's actually, it blows your breath back at you so that you're not breathing on the employees when you go to order something at the restaurant.
I don't know if I want to have my breath blown back.
Some people might have seen this because then Jimmy Kimmel picked it up and put it on his show this week. But so this was, she's the chef in LA. She had a pop-up restaurant called Calabama that did breakfast burritos in the morning. And, you know, it was a street level operation that she wasn't getting a lot of street traffic for. So she decided she'd just make them in her apartment, 4 stories up, and she'd deliver them by a bucket. And that alone got them so much attention. And now she's, you know, been on national media and everything, but it is a super safe way to deliver.
So the idea is, you know, the thing is, we should not all be delivering burritos by bucket, but look for creative ways to address things, and they oftentimes can work and, you know, get you a lot of business.
Yeah.
And oh, this is something that we've just been seeing some grocery stores doing too, is they're having one-way aisles now. So instead of, you know, people running into each other and not knowing, like you said, Mike, like what to do when you're in the grocery store now, I think it's Publix and Kroger's have been implementing the one-way aisles.
Yeah, retailers in general have been doing so much. We could do a whole other webinar just about retail pivoting.
Yeah, and speaking of, I mean, family meals, almost so many of the chains have been doing family meals now. And that's just a term that just kind of brings everyone like kind of a little smile and you feel warm about it. Longhorn has curbside to go now for family meals. And I know it might kind of hurt too to have, you know, add an additional percentage on there, but just having that 15% off too, promotion can kind of help people, you know, get on that bandwagon. This is Pacific Standard Time in Chicago. They have family meals that sold out super, super fast. And then they're also including the toilet paper there too. So
Seems to be a theme.
it does, yeah. Red Lobster family meals. And you know, if you don't, it always says, you know, feeds a family of 4, but if it's only you or, you know, a smaller family, put it in the fridge, put it in the freezer, and then you have meals for the rest of the week.
Yeah, this is another concept that they only offer family style meals now. So they don't even offer entrees. You could see there, they do their prime rib on Fridays. They were like, it's like a bourbon washed prime rib that they were like, we never would have thought we would offer it as like a family style option, but now they have to. They said the thing that's selling really well for them is that immune boost Wagyu beef bone broth.
Oh,
That might spell a future for functional foods, which we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
This is the independent operator. It's actually in the suburb of Chicago called Palatine. They're doing all kinds of stuff for the family. So again, an Easter brunch meal. You see so many of them, you know, that would have offered an Easter brunch package that was huge. You know, you're going to have 20 to 30 people coming over. Now it's for 4 people. So I think that's that you see a lot. They also do these things like golden tickets that they'll put in your meal. And, you know, if you get one, you get a percentage off or a free entree. I actually want to read the quote from this place. So they offer these emergency taco kits. It's $150, but it's 10 pounds of meat, 30 eggs, the roll of toilet paper. You get all kinds of stuff. They also do things like these mini emergency margarita kits. But the quote from the operator, they said, "You have no idea how much your orders of emergency taco kits have helped to keep our business from the verge of closing. We're able to pay our vendors for inventory that otherwise would have been wasted. We're able to keep our employees insured. We're able to keep the lights on, and we can keep sending orders to our smaller vendors. We're not sure how long this is going to last. We just want the chance to see the other end of it."
That's so nice. That's really nice. Yeah, booze, we could do a whole thing about alcohol here. But this is from Acadia in Chicago. And so they have everything nicely wrapped up. That one on the right is the social distancing punch. And how nice to have all those instructions, everything laid out for you, and a fun little note on there as well. Oh, this is one of my favorite examples. We were actually talking to a client and they were talking about a family member who works at this place called Stacks in Valparaiso. And as you can tell, it kind of looks like Mike's house too, with the background there with all the library books. But they're doing these mystery beers. So for $1, when you order online, choose what you want. My favorite option there is the I don't give a shit, because, you know, sometimes you might not care which beer you get, but they're $1, you get it delivered. And then they were saying too that afterwards, you know, if you like that beer, you can come back in and get it then. So very cool, little fun thing to do.
Yeah, kind of on the opposite. So the example that Renee showed was they gave you full bottles so you could continue
Mm.
making those cocktails over the course of the week. Whereas Dante, which is a cocktail bar in New York, they actually individually package each of their cocktails and you get it in a small bottle. So we see both of those. We see cocktail kits and then we also see prepared cocktails.
Mhm.
Bogota Latin Bistro, so they actually said that this is what saved them is alcohol. I
Mm.
think they said it's about a third of their revenue now is selling alcohol. It's
Mm.
about 2 to 4 drinks per order are added.
Hmm.
And Sellers, just an example, this was the tech community in LA put together this website so restaurants could start selling their wine. Actually, we've seen that quite often, particularly in fine dining. I know Manresa in San Francisco reached out to some of the collectors that they knew, some of their top guests, and they actually sold $40,000 worth of rare wine in a week.
Oh, wow. Jack Rose in Washington, D.C., they have a massive whiskey collection, which I know you would like that, Mike. They have like 2,700 bottles, and they're offering any of the bottles, single pours for the ones that have already opened. And it might be a little weird to get a little container like that of your booze, but you know, times are hard. So, desperate times.
So,
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
so let's speed through the food and learning piece. if
Sure,
we can.
yeah. So Paso Roto in Chicago, they have these DIY kits for quarantine projects. So learning how to make Napa cabbage kimchi, very nice there.
Yeah, the next couple are, so this was a food tour operator also in Charlotte, North Carolina, that reached out to some of the places that they used to do tours with, but now you can actually get the cheese and the wine and you have a little 1 hour session with the cheesemonger and winemaker. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
Snooze AM Eatery. They did a brunch DJ set on a Sunday morning. So just getting people together. And this is an entertainment venue out of Des Moines, Iowa. They're doing all kinds of stuff just to kind of keep up that fun vibe that they had. They do virtual trivia. They send you social bowls, all kinds of fun, weird stuff. And
Let's
then
go beyond. What are some other things that we're seeing?
I mean, this is just kind of some kooky stuff that people are doing. But I mean, you got to stand out in this time. And I mean, you could be a little out there sometimes. So
Mhm.
this was a bakery, I believe this was in Germany, that started doing the toilet paper cakes there and then the little mask cookies on the side. This was a chocolatier this is actually their version of the like an Easter chocolate, but it's in the shape of a coronavirus.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how you found these things.
Vietnam, he got a ton of attention for the coronavirus burger.
This looks painful to eat, actually. But
Yeah.
I did want to just help us wrap up with a thought that everything that we're saying, all the stuff in the news, to us, this is ultimately a people and a human story, right? At some points, it seems like this is a medical story or a political story or an economic story. But at the end of the day, the thing that people can remember is that this is really a human story. This is what's going to resonate in the long run. All of the human experiences that we have during this time and during the recovery as well. So we wanted to sort of wrap up and look at some of the things that restaurants can do and other places can do to make that human connection. We saw last week in some of the data that consumers more than ever are saying, I want to support restaurants that need help, or I want to support what's local in my community. And here's some things that some places are doing that I think we can all learn from. So Mike,
Yeah.
do you want to take us?
Oh yeah, so this is Junzi Kitchen in New York. And when I first looked at them, I was kind of writing about their family meals and to-go kits. But then I saw that they were doing this, donate a bowl, give back to healthcare workers.
We've seen so many operators doing that.
Mhm.
This is Demos here in Chicago. So they're a pizza operator. You can actually see on the left there, they've taken over their windows. They have, I don't know if you can read it there, but it actually has statistics week over week of how many coronavirus infections there are, but then actually how many recoveries there are week over week as well. And then they've actually started using their pizza ovens to mold masks. so shields for healthcare operators. So during the day, they'll cook pizzas that they'll send out, and then at night, they'll mold shields for healthcare operators.
Yeah, and I think we can't say this enough, whether you're a manufacturer or a big chain or a smaller operator, think about what you could do for your community in a way that's going to be meaningful to that community and message it. It really is going to be the one thing that people are going to remember the most. And the more visual you can make it, the better. I know we went a little bit over on time. We apologize. Again, all this information will be posted on the coronavirus resource page, along with dozens of other reports that you can find there right now. And we will have another webinar next week. Before that, just reach out to us at Datassential. If there's anything we can help you with, even if it's just to say hi. We just want to see how you're doing and let you know how we're doing as well. If you're not working with us already, you can email hello@datassential.com to get started. And next week's webinar is going to be a great one. We're going to go more deep into quantitative data, and it's going to be all about money. What's happening with people's financial situations? What are they going to do as we start recovering? How are they going to spend that money? And what can we expect in terms of the roadmap to recovery? Thank you all again. We apologize that we went a little bit over. If you want, we'll hang out for probably 3 or 4 more minutes and just answer some of the Q&A questions that have come up. Otherwise, feel free to drop off, and we'll see you next week. But if any of you want to stick around for a few minutes, we'll look through some of the Q&A and see if there's any questions that we can answer. So one of the more popular questions is more a housekeeping thing is, will this deck be available after the presentation? Absolutely, we will post this as a PowerPoint and as a PDF and the actual video recording of this to the coronavirus page. That should be up sometime early next week. Mike, we have a request to forward that testimonial from Guerilla Tacos. So what we'll do is we'll actually take that full quote and we will embed it in the deck that you could download as well. Some of the questions that we've gotten over the past few days primarily have been about the future, right? So right now we're looking at some of the adaptations that places are doing in the current environment, but this current environment is not going to be here forever. And there's a good chance it might not even be here for much longer. People are going to start coming back and returning to their routines. And the big questions that we're being asked, and I think we have fairly good answers to, is what are the immediate actions that consumers are going to take? Where are they going to go first? And I wanted to go back to some of the earlier points about there being this enormous pent-up demand that exists. It is the industry's responsibility to service that pent-up demand in a way that makes consumers comfortable. We don't want to, misstate ourselves here. It's not that everyone's dying to go out to a restaurant and they'll just sit their butts in a restaurant just like before on day one. There are many things that we can be doing to make them much more comfortable, and we should adopt all of those. Over time, some of those will likely fade away. But on day one, safety will still be a primary concern. It's one of the most important things we've seen in some of this work so far, which is that people care more about safety than they do taste right now, which never happens, right? And that's unlikely to not be the state of things as we start recovering. So remember, safety first, show it, don't just say it, and we'll all be in a much better place. Thank you all again. We look forward to seeing you next Friday. Mike, Renee, any final thoughts before we sign off?
Just thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, bye everybody.
Everyone, be well. Bye.
Have a great weekend.